Hello and welcome back to Purple in Peril, a Druid Blight caster life. This is level 29 and we are sitting on a log somewhere in the foothills of the Stormhorns next to this woodsman's cabin, contemplating life. As discussed in one of the comments from the last one of you suggested I try the Lines of Supply quest in the Stormhorns for the level 29 episode. So that's what we're going to do. The gear, I haven't changed anything. I was going to try and add the odd legendary item, especially what would have been a very nice item to add the what's it called? Ring of Falls Decay, which would have boosted up the acid and poison spell power for our spell-like abilities and acid well. That would have been great. Excuse me. But as it stands, I kept thinking if I take away one piece, it's gonna beggar up everything else, and in the end, I just left it. So we've got half heroic gear, that's all heroic. So is that staff. This is that's heroic as well, the belt. So it's mostly heroic gear with a smattering of epic. Those four are epic. These three are Kenneth crafted, and then that's an early epic sentient weapon. So it's basically as we were since early in epic, and we're going to try and get by with that. If you're wondering why I'm not able to add any level 29 gear, his nominal end build for purple is the tanky warlock that we did in the first purple life. All the gear is tailored to that, and a lot of it has is either level 30 or higher minimum level. So that's one reason I can't wear some of it. I would have liked to switch to the we have a nice caster stick, if I can find it there. That's a dinosaur bone caster stick with some nice bits and pieces in there. But again, that's a tanky thing. It's focused on healing amp and MRR and PRR and extra hit points. It's not really geared for this build, which is kind of the glass cannon spell power and DC casting. You can see the saves are all in the 50s under normal conditions. So in Reaper they're going to be probably up towards the 60 mark. Certainly the reflex will. I tested the reflex save against the two nasty trapped quests in the Three Barrel Cove, and unfortunately we still didn't have high enough to get through there unscathed. I tried, I didn't even try the what's the one with the really bad traps, what's it called, that one? Some kind of a challenge, isn't it? Prove your worth. I didn't try that. The one I tried was the Ghost of a Chance, and there's a section in the middle of that where there's some spike traps, and they just absolutely carved me in two, unfortunately. Aside from that, the reflex save has held up quite well. It's just that the saves in those particular quests are high compared to, and so is the damage compared to similar things of that level. You'll note here that our, particularly the PRR, but also the MRR are pretty feeble because we're still in robes. What else do we know? The fortification is now a bit on the low side, I think, for level 29. Spell power wise, I think we're doing pretty well, bearing in mind we've got 300 to add to that because all the meta magics are on. So we're rolling with over 1,000 acid and close to 1,000 poison, which isn't bad. If I could have added the... I think I've actually got it on me, I just wasn't able to put it in. Yeah, I have I got them on me or not? I thought I'd clicked on... Yeah, that was one of them. The sun scale armour I was going to try and wear. But that would have broken my heroic set bonus. No, I haven't. I think the rest of them must be in the bank. I just wanted to show how much the crit chance would have gone up. We would have had quite a bit more acid and poison crit chance with that Ring of False Decay. But anyway, not to worry. We have done all of the other quests in the Stormhorns apart from this one. And the one that can be particularly tough... is it breaking the ranks, it's called, I think, the one in the army camp up on the top there. You can get knocked down by the giants when that's very easy to be knocked down and overwhelmed. So this anti-knockdown thing from the Hive Master really helps with that, and it did work very well there. Also, our contagion stun thing against the groups of things, because they come at you in packs, the contagion and then acid well strategy worked amazingly well. It's probably the easiest clearance of that particular quest, which has given me all sorts of problems in the past. Probably the easiest I've had for that. So at coping, controlling and then hammering big groups, he does really well. Especially when he uses contagion, because that causes helplessness. So then we get our 15% bonus extra damage from the crush weakness feat we took at the last level 28. Let's just show you where we are with the epic Destinies. So as I mentioned, we were going to go up this tree. We took the DDO in there. Bear in mind, every core in here is nice for us because it's 5 universal and 5 force spell power, both of which help us. So the DDO, as well as helping us anyway, is another 5 force and universal. We got 5 force and universal for taking 3 points in there. And also, for taking the 6 reflex save in here, there's another 5 force and universal there. So that's nice. Going forward, I would take the 3rd core in there. Now, we do already have evasion. My cold druid doesn't, so he really benefits from this 3rd core to give him the evasion feat at the cap. We already have it, so we would get improved evasion, which, as far as I understand it, means if we fail a save, like I did in that 3-barrel cove one I've described, we would only take half damage, not the full damage. Excuse me. So going forward, I would probably take another point of reflex save in there just to get us to 10. Then the next core for another 5 universal and force spell power, and then we'd have probably shadow caster in there, and then spell focus necromancy for our contagion, because that's been something we've been leaning on really heavily, and it certainly hasn't let us down. So that's the epic Destinies. I think that went more or less to plan. I have been finding it a bit more problematic as we've moved up the levels. This business with the healing on Reaper, with the healing being nerfed and us not having a big booming heal. What I should be doing is clicking at least one of these, you know, when we go into a contact, just to keep things sort of ticking over. Or maybe not, because our sort of ticking over is killing things and keeping up that temporary hit point barrier, isn't it? The thing is, you never quite know. We can go very quickly from a position of relative, comfort to being halfway down the hit point bar with a big booming hit. And I guess our crappy PRR doesn't help with that. I just wanted to mention, if you are, if you're finding yourself a bit short of experience, or you're wanting to level up quickly and kind of stress free, there's nothing wrong with doing the legendary quests. You can do from level 20, in my opinion, on just about any build, unless it's a complete tank build that doesn't do any damage. You can manage legendary normal, maybe even legendary hard, and you can get really good first time XP there, plus saga XP. Something like the cogs, it's a very quick run through. The only slight downside to that is if you plan to spend any time at the cap, you will have already done your first run through of those quests, and so if you were planning to run them at a reasonable Reaper level at the cap for the big Reaper XP that can give, you would lose the first time bonus, which would be quite significant. But that's the only downside. If you were just doing it, to level up quickly, any of the legendary quests, Grim Barret, Chain and all that kind of thing, give you a nice big chunk of easy XP. I mentioned the traps in 3 Barrel Cove. Yes, I mentioned that I was using and leaning heavily on Contagion and Acid Well. The cheap and cheerful substitute for Acid Well, less AoE and less damage, but my goodness, it still works very well, is the Carrion Swarm. That's an AoE and 2 spell point cost. So if you're on economy a little bit, just hit the Contagion and then follow it with the Carrion Swarm, and that still works reasonably well, although it doesn't just devastate stuff like the Acid Well would. What else did I want to say? Oh yeah, we were discussing in one of the past episode comments, I think, about the old forums and how unfortunate it was that they weren't accessible at the moment, because there were a lot of old build things and questions answered and all that. I think they are back viewable again now, although there are still some funny bits and pieces, like you'll do a Google search and it'll direct you to those forums, and you press on the link and it comes up with, oh, we are still doing maintenance or something like that. But you can access the old forums. I think they've renamed it as that. The link is something like DDO/old forum and whatever it is you're going to. I'll try and post a link in the description to this episode to that. So it's nice that they've not been lost anyway. So the new hardcore season starts tomorrow. Good luck to all of you who are going to be setting out, whatever your targets might be. I think I've mentioned before, probably several times, that it's not really something for me. I think the furthest I ever got was level 3. I didn't die, I just stopped doing it, and I'll discuss that a little bit now, because one of you mentioned in the comments to one of the previous videos, we were discussing some of the pros and the cons of it. in my eyes at least, I mean, you can argue quite justifiably that, if you've never really invested yourself in it, how do you know? Well, I've kind of seen it through the eyes of others, and I know how I am and how I would be. So that's what I'm basing the judgment on. I've seen both sides. I've seen a little group of people that I know getting together, real team spirit. And the closer they got to the end, it was like, oh my God, we're so close, let's not die now, and all this kind of stuff. And then when they finally made it, everyone made sure, people made sure that the person who was lowest in XP got there, and there was like a fairly, a happy atmosphere, a celebration. Yeah, we've made it, we've done it, that kind of thing. And then the following season, it was the other way around. They got about 2/3 of the way through, and something really unfortunate happened. I think it was in the Undermine quest. At the end of that quest, the little boss guy starts dropping mines on the ground, and I think one of their hirelings that they had in there triggered a sort of a chain explosion, which caught everybody up and everybody died, and that was it. And the atmosphere after that one was pretty somber, I can tell you. So I've kind of experienced both sides of it through the eyes of others. So that's kind of a pro and a con. The first example being a pro, obviously, the real sense of achievement, of togetherness. The one of the things one of you mentioned was the roles. Suddenly, that the game of today, as you've seen with this purple character, is quite capable of going through the quests on his own, needing little or no help from other people. In the hardcore thing, it's just not the case. I'm sure it's possible to solo, but it's probably not recommended. And generally speaking, you want a reasonably balanced group, where the roles are going to shine again. The healer and the trapper and the tanky character, that kind of thing. So that's definitely something that I think people enjoy about that, as well as the fact that suddenly everything is relevant again. The auction house, the loot, you're not just some people a lot of people now don't even bother opening the chests. They've got the gear that they run with, and that's that. They know they're never going to find anything better, so just keep going. But every chest is like a potential gear improvement in the hardcore, so that's something else, like a positive. I'm not going to waffle on too much, but if you have any other things to add, or want to chime in any comments about particularly noteworthy triumphs or disasters in there. I'm thinking of another one. One of the Bear Party was complaining vehemently one season about a character who I think when some people were resting, or people were just generally milling around and not really ready to go on, and this one fellow opened a door and a whole load of stuff came spewing out, and several of them died. And it was just apparently he was a bit renowned, this chap, for going on before the group was ready. And I know that's one very big no in the hardcore. It's like all together, isn't it, generally speaking. So that's that. I happen to see, and this is a recurring theme, I don't think I've ever looked as much in the forum, but maybe I've been looking to have something a bit more to talk about, to see what you guys think. I might have mentioned this particular one in the past. It's always been a bit of a bone of contention with me. It's this business of the optional experience in quests, or the optionals in general. Now, if you're just doing it for the fun and to discover the quest, then yes, fine. do all the optionals, and don't be upset that the optionals only give a fraction of the experience of the quest, and you could probably have completed 3 quests in the time it takes you to do some of these optionals. If you're doing it just to discover, then great. But if you happen to be doing it in a limited time to try and make progress with your character, in terms of reaching the next level or levels, then it kind of pays you to know that the vast majority of the optionals in game, the rewards are so pitiful that there's just no point doing them. And I've always thought that was a real shame, because it would be more fun, it would be more fun if the game were more balanced in that sense, and the rewards were, commensurate with the time and effort put in to complete those optionals. And then, there would be the quest would be done more fully. And I think, I can think of 2 where people do systematically run the optionals: the Jungle of Khyber and the Two-Toed Tobias in Epic. But in both cases, it's because they're kind of on the way anyway. The ones I'm thinking more of are the ones where you've got to go down a separate path and confront something, to be awarded with a 2,000 or 3,000 XP in Epic for an optional that might take 5 or 10 minutes, and the quest itself rewards 50,000. So it's just not it's not in proportion, is it? I was wondering. Well, I think maybe the reason they give such derisory amounts for these optionals is this history with the Wizard King quest in the Sands, where groups were farming the optionals and not completing the quest until, their eyes bled from doing it. I just don't know how people could do that, but that's another story. So they've solved that, though. They've added this optional ransack thing. So I think if you complete the same quest more than 3 times, then the optional objectives start ransacking, and you don't get as many XP for them, down to to eventually to 0. So it's not a strategy anymore to do like they were doing in the Wizard King thing. So that being the case, I don't know why we can't have meaningful rewards for those things. I think it's unfortunate. I'll give one example. Until recently, I didn't know about the optional down at the bottom of the... What is it? The quest in the Feywild. You go out of the hut from beyond, and it's immediately there in front of you in the wilderness area. Is it Immortality Lessons, where Hearson plays the violin at the start? I think it is. You go left in the main room to start with. You go to that fight with the big Fomorian, and then through the door in that room, after the plate at the dinner table, where you've got to choose from the plate or the mirror and all that kind of thing. Through that door, there's an optional there. In fact, I think I might even have done it in this life in the Purple Poison series. I think I wanted to show that. And things like that. I'd never even seen that content. I didn't even know it existed until somebody showed it to me. And the things like that, for the effort involved, the reward given is derisory, but it's it's a nice part of the quest. I don't see why they can't give many times more for doing that. But maybe that's just me. I think it would be a better, more rounded game if those were rewarded properly. And Well, the too long didn't listen version would be I agree wholeheartedly with the point the person was making in the forum about making these rewards worthwhile. I think that's just about all I had to say. Yep, that'll about do it. I've got all my excuses in beforehand. We're still in heroic gear, blah blah blah. The night's fallen in the woods here. Whatever that is behind, I'm not waiting to find out. We'll just stick to Reaper 1. Because if I lose all that waffle...
Finally reach the rendezvous point. Deep the harbor gestures to the edge of the camp. One of the rocks is an illusion.
Okay.
It is gone now. You have a few minutes to prepare before the convoys arrive.
Now I can definitely see a situation with the amount of stuff that's going to be stacked up against us here where we're going to be struggling with the healing. Now there is a shrine just down from the big fighting area, so if the worst comes to the worst we should be able to get back to that and jib us up if we need to do.
A threat to anyone below.
Let's get that warlock stopped, he looks a bit nasty. Breaking breakables to me is a bit painful, so I only ever do it in the quests where I know there's only a few and I can get a decent reward for so doing, of which this is one. If there's like 60 or 70 breakables to do in a quest, unless I have a character like maybe somebody who has the sonic blast or something like that who can just break many at a time, it's just no, it's not for me. Keeping a careful eye on the red crowns. Oh, I missed him. I had him targeted, but it hit something else. There's another one there at the back, looks. Let's see if we can do death from distance. No, he had some kind of death ward thing. I hate it when they ruin my moment like that. I'll announce some cunning scheme and the game's like, nope, no you don't. So let's go and break the rest of the barrels. If you ever want to fall faster, by the way, when you've got feather fall on, just hold the shift key down and it stops the feather fall like I just did then. So in a quest like Spies in the House, say, where there's that massive fall at the start, you can just hold the shift key down to fall very quickly. I always miss one. There's a small reward for killing all those gnolls, and I never seem to be able to find them all. Now I think we're going to try and use the sleet storm here at the entrance to the cave, just to try and slow them up a little bit. You can take some net trap things from up at the top there, from a guy up at the top where those barrels were. But I think our contagion will be better than that. Yeah, I think I should keep this going here. That was contagion and acid well. That's going to be the bread and butter, I think, for this one. I think one of those spells fizzled there, unfortunately. Did we get that guy? No. I was thinking the shard storm would get him. Don't presume. That's a better one. Yeah. That spell just fizzled. A bit of lag there, or shall we say a lot.
You deprived the Netherese army of more than half of their supplies. Kyra Armor salvaged some of it and placed it in a chest.
We'll actually do better against the slower things, the giants, than the speed merchants. Oh, look at that, beautiful. That was pretty good too. Oh.
You've eliminated every supply convoy. Not a single one made it through to the Netherese army. Kyra Armond has another.
So I think at least on this low level, we've shown there that we can really, because that's another quest where you can easily get overwhelmed. I dread to think what would happen to a poor archer character trying to do that on his own. So we've shown we can be really handy in that situation. Most of it was contagion, stun, and then acid well or tsunami, and backed up by the carrion swarm. And then for the single targets I was using Word of Balance, Salt Ray, which does damage and gives a stun, so allows me to follow up with something else. Nice for stopping those fast runners. Now then, he could be a bit of a problem. Poisoned him. Keep a ticking heal on myself. Try not to use too many mana. Get some lightning on him. The problem is he moves, so I've put the lightning in a spot there and he's quite liable to move out of it. Like thus. Come back here. Nice, okay. I'll be honest, that went better than expected. There's, if you don't know the quest so well, there's a couple of chests as well, depending on how well you've done, how many lines you stopped. You can get some extra chests back at the start here. Happy days. So I'll go ahead and do, not on the recording, I'll go ahead and do the last one in this chain, and then I'll try and get most of the way towards the cap with the saga rewards I've got stacked up. I won't discuss that too much in this series, because next time around one of you asked me to sort of itemize what quests I was doing at each level. So we'll go over the saga things that I do, and the chains, and what's done at each level. We'll do that next time around in the next live. I think that pretty much concludes this one. Evening Star by night. Nice little view off the bridge looking down into the river and the woods beyond. Thank you very much as always for looking, and I will speak to you soon. Take care.